Welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Srikanth, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bengaluru.
I'm Krishna Kumar, coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios, and we do have a power-packed 20 minutes lined up for you. But first up, I check on all that's making headlines here. Continuing with bringing you all the action from the I5 Summit at IIM Indore. Today, we bring you the key highlights of the summit that had competitions, that had startups landing funding on the spot. Another interesting voice from I5 Summit is that of Anand Govindaluri, a veteran investor, especially in the healthcare sector, having invested in more than 50 startups and received $2 billion exits. His investment firm, Govin Capital, is looking to increase its India focus. IITs and IIMs have recently been at the center of news, with placement departments blacklisting startups for not fulfilling offer commitments. We catch up with some students to know what they make of the controversy and if it makes them wary about working for startups. And NASSCOM Emerge 50 Awards is in its 8th year now, and it annually identifies, showcases and supports top 50 high-potential emerging product-centric organizations in the country. And we get you the first leg of the journey, where it is kicked off in Mumbai. Voices from the jury coming up on the show.
Straight to our top story then, where we are getting you more highlights from that I5 Summit that happened at IIM Indore over the weekend. We of course had our colleague Rahul Dama covering it for us, and today he really takes us through the Get Funded segment, which was what caught a lot of attention, where startups got funded on the spot. Krishna, Rahul, take us through what happened there, the kind of startups that got funded, the kind of ideas that really gained popularity as far as IIM is concerned.
The big highlight of I5 Summit really has been the Get Funded competition. More than 150 application of startups, 15 shortlisted, and they got to pitch in front of investors from AHA Ventures. You had Investors Capital, you had Orias Venture Capital, and also various other angel networks who sat there. And a few startups have got on the ground funding right after they made the pitch. More than over 1.5 crore in funding to startups that have raised 50 lakh each. So while we may be talking about caution outside, that hasn't really stopped these student entrepreneurs from going out there and starting their ventures. And a few of them have actually gone ahead and got funding. That's the excitement from IIM campus Indore. And students that we've been talking to tell us that they're very optimistic, and that the outside environment does not deter them about their entrepreneur plans.
Every year, around 7 million people travel across the globe to find healthcare solutions for their ailments. We at MedMonks try to make those healthcare journeys simple, smooth, and better. Today, we've raised around 50 lakhs in this great event, and we have a few investors lined up for the next 50 lakhs because our ask was around 1 crore. And what we're going to do with this is focus on the product development, make the platform more smooth, and have a strong team on the ground hand-holding all these patients.
The idea that we have is crowding. It is basically crowdsourcing of IT solutions. So there are a lot of needs in the IT segment which SMEs and startups have. And there are a lot of coder bases that is growing through the software developers in India. We are trying to create an equilibrium in both of them. Now the amount of funding that has been offered, we plan to use that for expansion in terms of initial setup of the offices, looking for the resources that are required for the coder base, and marketing it to the SMEs as well as the coders, so that we can have a sustainable model in long term.
All right, Chandra, another interesting voice coming in from the I5 Summit is that of Anand Govindaluri, a veteran investor, especially in the healthcare sector, having invested in more than 50 startups and received $2 billion exits. His investment firm, Govin Capital, is looking to increase its India focus. Rahul Dama caught up with him to know exactly what their plans were. Listen to what he had to say.
In India right now, I look at basically startups that are basically more oriented towards fusion of IT and BT, that is information technology with biotechnology, and applying it in the healthcare context. I also feel that there is a huge opportunity that exists in the services sector, whereby you're able to apply technological innovations for the treatment of common disorders and in the healthcare setting, basically be it in the primary or the secondary or the tertiary clinic centers. So the services area, especially in the process innovation side, is doing very well in India. And you have this whole consumer demand that is actually fueling the growth of innovation engine in India, especially in the healthcare side.
Tell us, you started off with Andhra Pradesh and, now you're moving on to other cities. So how's the experience been like in Visakhapatnam, so to say, and how do you plan to increase your engagement with startups here in India?
The experience so far of dealing with the government of Andhra Pradesh has been extremely positive and seamless. Now I noticed that there are two reasons for this. One is not only we are delivering in terms of creating startups, but we are also bringing in a lot of value add in job creation, which is basically now the need of the hour at this point of time. So job creation amongst youth, so that they are basically being localized within the particular place from where they come from. And then having a very structured protocol or a structured method of creating a startup or producing a startup. Now our business model is basically based on expanding Startup Accelerator India in emerging towns and emerging villages of India, which will become the next hubs. The next hub for basically startups.
Any specific sectors that is the sector agnostic in a way that you cater to startups, or is there a specific sector that you?
In addition to looking at healthcare, we also tend to focus on a little bit of edtech areas, and we also look at IoT and big data. But we are open to looking at ideas which also promote women entrepreneurship. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to promote women entrepreneurship in India.
A lot of startups here want to get domiciled there in Singapore while they continue operations here. So, what learnings do you think that's worked at Singapore that the Indian government can use to reassure companies that this is the place that they should stay?
So Singapore has got very clear-cut policies for startups. The government is extremely proactive, positive in supporting entrepreneurship, in nurturing entrepreneurship, and they have got a very easy process for starting companies and closing companies. So that's one of the best reasons as to why people go there. Secondly, also the taxation policies are quite crystal clear. So taxation policies to encourage investment in startups.
Away from those voices, Krishna, campuses like the IITs and IIMs have also been in the eye of the storm because of issues around placements, particularly among startups. We've seen them deferring dates, not really honoring placement commitments, which is why a lot of these companies have been blacklisted on campuses. Now, Rahul caught up with a few students to, find out if the attraction for startups is still there or if they are better off joining established companies. Let's listen into what these students had to say.
Startups provide more challenging roles, and still it hasn't been profitable. So personally, I feel that would be more challenging for me as a student to learn more things, because MNC don't provide you they provide you some fixed roles, limited, you have limited growth. But here you can explore yourselves, and I think this would be the best opportunity. Still, I would go for startups.
Ola had 1,000 people being fired, a lot of them really IT, IIM graduates. Is that a cause of worry? Does it hit you upon it? Probably it's not as safe and secure as other jobs are?
I think, yes, there's situations where, yes, people are laid off, but then coming to brands like IIT and IIMs, yes, there's a sense of trust that you develop. There's something in us that we believe in ourselves. We're very confident that we might not be in those thousands. And again, agreeing to my friend's point, the challenges in startups are something we like. There's lucrative options, and the growth opportunities that we have there, the experience that we'll get in a startup probably are much better than what we'll get in MNCs, because MNC jobs are much more cliched now. I mean, we'll have to work the way companies working. In startups, you get to explore your options, and then you continue with yourselves.
I tend to be someone who's very brand conscious, and for me, I think I'd like to kick off my career with a well-established MNC, a firm that is recognized not only in India but also at the global level. I think the kind of exposure that I would get with working with an established MNC would be much more. Yes, startups allow you to be more involved. They give you challenging roles, as my peers have been saying. However, at the individual level, I think these job stability that is associated, the image that is associated with a well-established firm would be more important for me, considering that many of us here are studying with huge loans. So I need that aspect of certainty at the end of 2 years when I graduate from an IIM.
You know, of the four that have spoken, three feel that your startup provides that sort of a risk-taking ability. It's about learning and growing. So would you really go in for a startup?
Well, I will be reiterating their point because as an individual, I'm not somebody who wants to work in a very strictly defined role, right? And I can't work in a silo. I would rather like to explore my domains and, sort of be a large fish in a small pond than be a small fish in a large pond. So I don't want to just go and lose myself in an organization who's got their identity defined so well that, I have to absolutely align myself with the firm or I'm out. So, and I think even in a startup, I have more of a chance to mold, the course of my life and the course of the startup. I would like to make that sort of an impact in the place where I'm working. I think that's only possible for a startup, and I'm okay with that risk that comes with it.
Today, it's not difficult to raise funds. Every day, every startups are raising a lot of funds. So basically, it conveys the idea that the hard work you are putting behind. So I think it's been a good growth for India till now, and going forward, we're definitely going to have a product startup. So till now, we have normal startup, but going in the future, we have a product boom coming into India that would be beneficial for everyone.
All right, Chandra, time now to shift focus away from the I5 summit at IIM Indore and put the spotlight on NASSCOM Emerge 50 Awards, which is in its 8th year and its 8th edition now, and it annually identifies, showcases and supports top 50 high-potential emerging product-centric organizations or startups in the country that are redefining the benchmarks of excellence for the technology industry as a whole. In fact, the 2016 edition of NASSCOM's Emerge 50 has kicked off with the first round of jury deliberations in Mumbai. We caught up with some members of the jury. Take a look at what they had to say.
Part of the jury here, so looking at startups to see if I can find something for myself to invest in. I'm a VC, I manage a VC fund, so of course it's quite interesting to see some of these startups who've raised initial funding already, and quite impressed with the quality of companies here. So hopefully I should be able to find maybe one or two companies to invest in. Other than the fact that it's just spending time with them itself is quite exciting.
Right. Any particular, focus, because this is Mumbai, for example, is fintech, for that matter, of focus in terms of the startups that you're looking at, or is there any other particular, trend that you're witnessing over here?
So we as a fund ourselves invest in healthcare, technology, fintech, and consumer. So these are the sectors we invest in. And I think some of these startups are in those areas. I've already seen a few in fintech and AI, even in healthcare.
You said you're going to invest in at least two. Any particular kind of startup that you're going to invest in? IoT, artificial intelligence, healthcare, fintech? What would be your pick?
I would say, anything across these verticals which I mentioned. But healthcare is one area which I'm quite excited about personally, and I see some opportunities there. AI is another one, IoT, where I see, we invest in teams.
So how would you split it? 50% team, 50% idea, or otherwise?
No, we broadly look at just three things, right? So one is the business model, the concept. So business model obviously has the sector, the need gap is there. The second thing we look at is the team, and we see the team in terms of their conviction, their commitment. So is this the most important thing in their lives? And the third thing is the execution strength. So these three things is what we look for.
I've been around in the startup space for some time, and unlike what I would have, my response would have been 3 years ago, I think today the startup ecosystem has evolved. So it is no longer about just hoping that we have good startups, but knowing about how to participate in their journeys once they have proven to be good startups. And that is what Emerge 50 to me is all about, because we are trying to identify the top 10 and then the top 50 and then the top whatever number of the best startups which probably have not got their glory under the sun yet. That brings me here.
Right, and also this is the first leg of the journey, and this is Mumbai, of NASSCOM Emerge 50. So are you witnessing a trend of, say, more fintech startup ideas being pitched, as compared to other spaces in the startup ecosystem, or what is exactly the kind of patterns that you've been witnessing?
since the venture capital industry in India specifically focuses on exiting by selling to other investors, there is naturally going to be a hot space or a trend movement. So that is why we are always blamed of being a herd mentality kind of industry. But I think it's natural because that's how the money is eventually made by most players. So fintech is one of those spaces. I see that almost everybody wants to call themselves artificial intelligence. Sometimes I have trouble deciphering what is the artificial intelligence or is it just an algorithm. Sporadically you hear of augmented reality, virtual reality, and a couple of other data analytics now getting old story and everybody believes they are doing that. Fintech is one of those spaces. AI, I think, however, is one of the hottest at this point of time.
And we will be getting you frequent updates from NASSCOM Emerge 50 because ET Now is the exclusive partner for that. So, stay tuned in for more jury meets, for more interesting startups that come out of there. But a heartening piece of news that's come from Kerala today because US-based company Full Contact has acquired a Kerala-based startup called Profoundus, which was incubated in Kerala Startup Village a few years back. In fact, it was mentored by Infosys co-founder Chris Gopalakrishnan. We caught up with one of its founders, Arjun Pillai, to really take us through the journey and what the road ahead is for these founders.
All right, Chandra, but in the meanwhile, one of my favorite companies in the world, Apple, is eyeing the digital healthcare space and has acquired Indian startup Glimpse. Now, that is G-L-I-I-M-P-S-E, Glimpse. The personal health data startup was founded by two Indian origin entrepreneurs, Anil Sethi and Karthik Hariharan. The deal size has not been disclosed by either of the parties. In recent months, Apple has also acquired Health Kit, Care Kit and Research Kit, thus further increasing their presence in the digital healthcare space as a whole.
And that brings us to the final segment of the day, Number Crunch, but we are breaking the format today and getting you two numbers to think about. The first one is 25 years. And why are we talking about 25 years? Because 25 years ago today was when the World Wide Web was opened up to the public by a British computer scientist working at CERN. That really marked the beginning, so to speak, of the World Wide Web becoming an open platform. It created billionaires out of college dropouts and drove many other established industries to the ground. But that's the history of the World Wide Web with its positives and negatives, but certainly that's having a profound impact on everything that we do on a daily basis.
Profound, Chandra, is a very mild word for what the internet has done, but I understand what you mean by profound. It's actually changed the way we look at life per se, big thanks to the internet and thanks to Mr. Tim Berners-Lee, the man who invented the World Wide Web, who's credited with inventing the World Wide Web 25 years ago. So that's a fantastic number to look at. It's the silver jubilee anniversary of the internet, so to speak. And Chandra, as you rightly pointed out, we are breaking the format because it's not one number we're crunching today, we're crunching two numbers. And the second number that we're crunching for you today is $900 million. Now, that's the amount at which a Chinese consortium has bought Media.net. Now, Media.net is an ad tech venture founded by two Mumbaikars, incidentally. And those Mumbaikars have just become richer by no less than $900 million. And with that, Chandra, I'm afraid we've completely run out of time here on this edition of Startup Central. But Chandra, $900 million, coming straight out of Mumbai, and that too from China straight into India. Interesting, isn't it?
Definitely, and at a time when ad tech globally is not doing well, I mean, look at how InMobi's been struggling. Then out of the blue, you have these two brothers who've just sold their venture for $900 million. But with these Chinese investors around, you never know what's going to happen, Krishna.
Absolutely. In fact, all the jury members I met at the NASSCOM Emerge 50 said the same thing. All the Chinese investors who come straight to the Mumbai airport, go to the Marriott hotel right next to it and sign off $1 million checks. I'm guessing one of those checks came straight to a couple of Mumbaikars.
Maybe you should scam them more often then.
Chandra, I'm learning. I'm obviously learning by doing these things. But we are seriously out of time over here. We need to wrap this particular edition of Startup Central Lab. Thank you so much for watching. Don't go anywhere. Keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.